Okay, here we go with the quotient rule. Now, quotient rule is very similar with the product rule. The difference is in the quotient rule, you notice that there's a minus instead of a plus, and it's also being divided by something. Actually, it's being divided by the second function, or the denominator squared. Okay, outside of that, it's pretty much the same thing as the product rule. So I'll show you what I mean. So let's start with A, and you'll see that the quotient rule is actually quite easy to pick out. It's a fraction. It all comes from a fraction. So let's split this up into the two functions. So you got the numerator function, or the function in the numerator, and you have the denominator function, or the function in the denominator. Okay? And, oh, I did those both the same color, my bad. Here we go. The denominator function. There we go. Okay? So first we start off finding out, well, if we call this top function, the red one, u, then if we find the derivative of that function, it would be du dx, which is equal to, in this case, just 3. Because the derivative of 1 is 0, and derivative of 3x is just 3. Then we find the derivative of the bottom function, which we usually just name v, just for convection's sake. So it would be dv dx. And in this case, it would be 2x. And derivative of 1, of course, is 0. So we found du dx, we found dv dx. Now we can do the quotient rule. So we have dy dx is equal to, now this is where it's similar to the product rule, derivative of the first function, or in this case the numerator function, which is 3, times the denominator function, just the regular one, not the derivative, just the regular function, which is x squared plus 1. Now this is where it's different. You do a minus instead of a plus, times the original numerator function, which is 1 plus 3x, times the derivative of the denominator function, which is just 2x. And that's all over the square of the denominator function. So you just take the denominator again, throw parentheses around it, and square it. Now you have done the quotient rule. That's it. Okay? So now let's draw a line and do B. Now you can see the red is the numerator, blue for denominator. Now if you look at the denominator, you should notice we're going to have to use the product rule on the denominator function. Because see, you got a function inside and it's being squared. So let's just get started. Okay, so if we call the numerator function u, du dx is then just going to be, well, x to the 1/2. If I take the derivative of that, it just becomes 1/2 x to the negative 1/2, which ends up just being 1 over 2 root x. Okay, so if you're not sure how I'm doing that, make sure you shoot me an email or text or something. Just let me know. And now for the denominator, dv dx. So we have the derivative for the regular function, so the 2 gets kicked out to the front. So it's 2 times what's inside the parentheses, 1 minus 2x, and then 2 minus 1 is just 1, times the derivative of what's inside, which in this case is negative 2. Okay, so we have dv dx. dv dx, now we put it together in the chain rule. Take the derivative of the first function, which was 1 over 2 root x, times, or sorry, the numerator function, times the denominator function, which was 1 minus 2x squared, minus the original numerator function, square root x, times the denominator function derived, or the derivative of the denominator function, which in this case was 2 times 1 minus 2x times negative 2. That's it. I don't know why I put that extra parentheses. Maybe put them around there so you know it's not minus 2, it's times 2. Times the negative 2, I mean. Now, of course, you can always simplify this, or, oh, sorry, we're not done. All over the denominator function squared, which would be 1 minus 2x squared, and then that is being squared. Now I could simplify this all a little bit. I just leave this the same, 1 over 2 square root of x times 1 minus 2x squared. Now this part, so I got a negative 2 times 2, so that would be a negative 4, but there's a minus here, so it ends up just being plus 4 times square root of x times 1 minus 2x. That's everything all over. Well, remember, you raise the power to a power, you multiply them, so you're left with 1 minus 2x to the 4th. And that is how you do the quotient rule. Okay, so I'll go ahead and post that right now. Thanks for watching.